Welcome to the Harlan Cohen podcast. I'm Harlan Cohen, and today I'm talking with Jeffrey Moss. He's founder and CEO of Parker Dewey. He pretty much created a new category of internships called Micro-Internships. And Micro-Internships are opportunities for students to do short-term projects for employers. So they match up employers and students get these great firsthand experiences. And if things go really well, sometimes they can even get full-time jobs. So it's a fantastic way to help employers and students to really figure out, how do we work together, and is this interesting to you as a student? So check out Parker Dewey. The reason I reached out to Jeffrey is because I had this post. I put this on my social media channels. Unpaid internships are wrong. They're exploitive. They discriminate against students who need to earn money to help pay for college. Students should be paid for their time. And Jeffrey, I know, is someone who firmly believes students should get paid for their time. So I posted this, and there are hundreds of comments. And you could check this out on all my different social media, on Instagram especially. Really compelling, interesting conversations. And I wanted to share some of the comments with him. We didn't share the comments right away. We get to that at the end of the conversation. But some of the comments, I don't even know if I agree on this one. Few interns we've ever really had added to the actual work environment. Most were observing and learning, but not producing anything. Teachers, nurses, they literally work for free during student teaching. The entire public education system is built on and depends on unpaid labor. The idea of teachers and specialists engaging in real work environment situations, that isn't really what we were thinking about when it comes to internships. But it's a really interesting conversation to have and something that needs to be thought about. I think of having a paid internship as a luxury. As an international student, sometimes unpaid internships are the only way we can gain experience because of visa requirements or other legal things. I run a nonprofit and cannot afford to pay my interns. However, I provide weekly meetings, give tangible projects they can promote to demonstrate their skills, offer mentorship, check in on their goals, and review their LinkedIn page. Their time is valuable, and it's important to me that I show that. So we talked about these different situations, but what comes out of this conversation more than anything is you have options, students and parents. It's really important to recognize a job can turn into like a part-time job, or even over the summer can turn into an incredible experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be an internship that leads to that outcome. And we talked about one of our favorite books, Hacking College. And that book is about how you can design your college experience so that you can set yourself up to get a job, not just a degree. So I love that book, and we talked about that as well, and many other things. I just have the best time talking to Jeffrey. Went to college together, and he's built this amazing business, and he's always been in my corner. I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation with Jeffrey Moss. It's insightful, it's interesting. I just always enjoy my time with him, and I'm confident you're going to enjoy this too. I am here with Jeffrey Moss, CEO, founder, Micro-Internship, guru, inventor. Are you the inventor of the term Micro-Internship?
I think so.
That's your word.
I think so. Yeah, we pioneered it. We weren't able to get a trademark, but yeah,
You tried.
we did try. We
Right.
tried. Unfortunately, by the time we tried, it was already out there in the world because of us.
Oh, isn't that, I would think, yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you're here because Jeffrey and I go way back, and it's been a while since we checked in on a podcast, but I just love what you do. How many years into Parker Dewey Micro-Internships are you deep?
We're about a decade in, so we've been doing this a while.
Is it really 10 years? That's not true.
It's crazy.
Is that really true?
Yes.
You started this
when
we were in Panera having that conversation. That was 10 years ago.
Probably.
And you said, this is what I want to do. I'm making a switch. I'm going in.
You were one of the first. I was picking your brain as the expert about everything around college kids.
I can't believe that it was 10 years. Is that a joke? Is that for real? I mean, I know I keep obsessing about this, but I thought it was 7 or 8.
No, we're in, we turned on the platform in January of 2016. So I started working on it about 10 years ago.
That is unbelievable. I can't believe that. That is wild. Well, congratulations, because, if someone is not familiar with micro internships, and today's conversation, because I want to be really focused, is going to touch on unpaid internships, because I posted this story or post on Instagram, posted everywhere, and it has caused a ruckus. It is chaos in the comments, and I really need someone to help us to parse through all these different points of view, and that's really where I want you to help us. But micro internships, for people who are not aware, and I know there's a lot. How many people are aware now? Because I saw some stat that was like staggering of the number of grads who are aware of Parker Dewey and micro internships.
Yeah, I mean it's millions, and we don't do any advertising to college students or recent grads either. I mean,
Right.
we do as a quick aside, we do an annual sentiment survey
Yeah.
of, again, hundreds of thousands of college students. 95% of college students said these real paid short-term professional projects are how they want to be recruited. And if you give students what they actually want, it's amazing. They flock to it. So we'll talk
Yeah.
more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's remarkable to me how long it takes to change things and to, really give people what they want, because, I've been doing what I'm doing for, 25 years. And honestly, like, things are worse in terms of student success, outcomes, health, and wellness. It's amazing because the data is there, but in terms of really being able to address it. So, I mean, that's my goal this year. I'm on a mission to really do everything I can to get the word out, to be 2 or 3 steps ahead for everybody who's transitioning, going to college, and also, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to just their life, of how can you be 2 or 3 steps ahead and know how to work through it and be the owner, like to be the one who's
Well,
empowered.
that's interesting because one of the things we found is that there's these really big problems, but sometimes the solutions are actually pretty simple. I mean, we look at college to career transitions and job readiness and turnover of new hires, and they're all getting worse no matter how much more effort's focused. One of the things we realized, and again, this was sort of the big catalyst of the idea a decade ago, is the solution ain't that complicated.
Right.
To the college to career, we're asking employers and students to essentially get engaged with summer internships or co-ops or apprenticeships or get married with full-time roles. All we've done is create the opportunity to go on a job date. And that's the whole concept of the micro internship, is solve a really complicated problem with a simple solution. If you can allow employers and college students to go on these short-term dates, can you then lead to better, again, engagements of internships and marriage of full-time roles?
Yeah. And it's working, and the students know about it, but still more need to know about it and understand it. And I think that's also part of what I wanted to talk about with this post, Jeffrey. It's wild what happened with this post. So let me share this with you. And I actually was thinking of you, because I made this and I was like, okay, I know, like, this is something that you are really passionate about, and I'll get my head out of the way so everybody can see who's watching
Just your ears.
the video. You had to talk about my ears.
I had to.
No one talks about my ears, and I forget about my ears. And my ears remind me of being younger, uh, being made fun of, not bullied, but it's like, it's not really my kryptonite, because I've gotten used to it. But it's like when you say it, I had this like,
The only reason I said it is because you had a line about it in your book or
yeah,
in your bio.
yeah. I talk about my ears. I mean, it's like I do
Um,
it to make. I try to call it out. I'm not offended at all. It's just funny because, it's like we've known each other a long time, and I don't mind. And
that
it's
was why
also
I did it.
it's very humbling too, because there's those things that are part of our life, which is so interesting, that just don't go away. That just kind of like haunt us. And for me, it's that, and my weight. Weight is a big thing, and my body image. You just made a face, dude. You have no idea. Like, I have such weight and body image because I was very overweight when I was younger. So like taking my shirt off, that's a big deal.
Really? All these years I've known you, I did not know that.
Oh, I don't know. I get very uncomfortable because
Maybe it's because you weren't my naked roommate.
I wasn't your naked roommate. Exactly. I get really uncomfortable. There's things that make us uncomfortable. This is the other thing, and we're going to get to some paid internship thing. But you bring up a really good point about my ears. And then I brought up a good point about you talking about my ears. And it's that I think in all parts of our life, it doesn't matter where we are, there are these things that are these insecurities, that kind of surface at different times. And only we know. What's one of yours? Are you willing to share one of yours? Do you have any?
Oh yeah.
What's
I mean,
what's one?
everything. Look at my bald head.
You think
Look
your
at
head your head is a problem?
yeah. I got no hair. I had hair
When
for
did you
like five.
when did you shave it completely?
Um, Yesterday.
Really? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little long, and then
Yeah.
Marjorie, my wife, makes fun of me, so I shave it off, and then
You shave it
it comes
yourself?
back. Yeah.
It's great. You have a very nice scalp.
I
People
help.
watch the video. No, it's nice because I have to be careful of mine because I have some here, but when I put my head down, well, it actually looks good today. But it's a miracle that I have any, but I have to be careful because one day I won't. I want to keep the skin on the top of my head looking as nice as possible. And sometimes I'll kind of scratch. And anyway, but you have a very nice, I can't see the bird's eye view. So we are all working through our stuff. But I think you look great. You look great, man. And I'm super excited for you and everything going on in your life. Okay. So unpaid internships are wrong. This is what I posted. They are exploitive. They discriminate against students who need to earn money to help pay for college. Students should be paid for their time. And I'm going to share one more line, and then I want to get your take, Jeffrey. Then I describe this as the worst is when you have an unpaid internship and then you have to pay for the college credits you earn
Oh,
by doing the internship. Essentially, you're paying to work for someone. So let me know, what are your thoughts about this?
yeah. I mean, unpaid internships, full stop, are just wrong. Um, I mean, there's the fairness aspect, which is certainly brought up in the post you shared. But even beyond that, I think there's actually huge negative implications on employers as well. I mean, what it does to the employer brand um, by being known as an organization that doesn't pay interns. The other thing is, even beyond brand, is how it limits the pool of potential candidates that you can hire. You're filtering out massive numbers of potential great hires who can't afford to do unpaid work, and employers are losing out on them. It's unbelievable. One of the things that's been actually really concerning to me over the past several years is what one college student called the unpaid internship in disguise. And again, what that is I think companies with all of the best intention are putting out simulations and virtual experiences and other, call it asynchronous learning opportunities, again, with the best intention to try to create these equitable pathways, but they're not paid. So for a student to be able to invest 5, 10, 20, 30 hours going through this unpaid experience, again, it's massively limiting to those students who can't afford to do free work. And even worse than the traditional unpaid internship is they're not even really putting it on their resume or getting any value when they're putting it on their resume or building relationships with companies. I mean, again, I feel really strongly. One last thing I'll put out there, NACE, National Association of Colleges and Employers, did a big push on this earlier this year, and they have some great ads that I love. And it talks about being paid in bagels, or how when a college student's trying to pay their rent, they hand their landlord sort of a piece of paper talking about their experience. It's sort of a very tongue-in-cheek way of saying that it's both unfair and it hurts employers.
Tell me about the doing the virtual training, or I'm not really familiar with that, and I want to understand how that's introduced and what that consists of, because I just want to understand that part.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really intrigued by it as well because again, you see companies offering sometimes they call them virtual internships, sometimes they call them simulations or other experiences. And when I first saw them, I was like, oh, what a great idea. They allow learners to sort of get content and get experience irrespective of where they are.
Yeah.
And employers are putting them out there trying to create more pathways. But when we actually talked with college students about it, it felt like another obstacle. That
So what
first
is
thing,
it like? Do they have to do those to like I don't understand how it's being introduced and why they would have to do it and what people do with it. So like just the sequence of events with that.
yeah, again, where what we have heard from students is, and from what we've seen on some of the websites, is students who complete XYZ virtual experience will have their resume prioritized when we're
Okay.
recruiting. So again, it becomes another gate. An XYZ virtual experience may take a learner 5, 10, 20 hours to complete. And again, it's being done with the best intention. It's being done to help learners that may not go to the focus schools, to help learners from different majors and whatnot, again, develop their skills and sort of showcase those skills. But in reality, if I'm a learner and I'm not sure if I want to go work at this company, and if I'm working a part-time job to pay for food, to pay for rent, I don't necessarily have the 10 hours to go create this virtual simulation with the hope it may lead to an interview.
Right. That's so interesting. So it's another obstacle, and people who need to make money while learning aren't able to do this. Now, there's a lot of pushback, and I want you to help me to filter through some of this pushback. So I just want to scroll through some of these,
Yeah.
and I
Sorry, I took us
favorited.
off topic.
No, that's I actually asked the question because it is a rapidly changing space, and students don't know how to find jobs. Hey, have you seen? I'll take us off topic for 2 seconds, and this is a great one. And I know I mentioned to you Hacking College. See, this is Hacking College by Ned Scott Laff and Scott Carlson.
Yep. Great book.
And man, this book is so good. I actually reached out to Ned and I'm going to talk to him, and I'm trying to figure out. I want to talk to Scott too, but I don't know if it's something where, and I I can keep this on or edit it, but I don't know if talking to each person individually or talking them together, or we can talk offline. But I want to talk to them and record a conversation. So I'll leave it up to them, but I don't know. It's
I
kind
know
of
Scott, so if you want an intro, let me know.
yeah, because I don't know. Then I'm like, will their feelings be hurt if like I talk to Ned without talking to Scott?
I think
And
the grown-ups, I think they'll be fine.
these are things I think about. I'm keeping this all in because like this is like these are the things that I have to figure out. I'm like, there's two authors, but Ned has been very communicative. I haven't reached out to Scott. What I want to do is walk along the beach or whatever, and I want to go for a walk on the beach with Ned. No, I want to I do this interview. I do this thing where I do like these walk and talks where like I'll record a podcast outside. It's just so much more natural. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Although this is very natural. We could do that too. We can go for a walk on the beach, dude. I'm cool with that.
Do you
So
like coladas? Long walk already?
I mean, you know what? As long as I can mic you and record you, that's all I care about because I want to get the content and I want to do it in a way that's interesting. So anyway, the point of Hacking College is this book I think everyone should read because it really talks about how college in many situations is about checking boxes to get a certificate, to get your degree, and it's really not designed to help people to get a job. And the way they approach it using kind of a career field, a field of study approach, and I talk about people, places, and patients, going to the people who are living those experiences. Like you have so much experience, like your career path is so interesting. Before you started this company, what are a couple things you did?
Yeah, I was an investor in private equity and venture capital.
And then before that, you were also
I started my career as an investment banker.
right. And then you took on a role
Yeah,
as
I
which
worked as chief of enterprise growth at Educational Testing Service, so a
yeah,
nonprofit.
right. So your career path has so many twists and turns, and you have your graduate degree, and then you went into a really interesting space, and then you were working in the space, and now you have a mix of it all. But if let's just say a student who's really interested in venture capital, who is interested in education, if they reached out to you and maybe they sent you, a message through LinkedIn or sent you some way, and said, Mr. Moss, I'm really interested in what you do, and would you be open to me just asking you some questions sometime? Would you do that?
I always respond. Any request I get, whether it's a student, another professional, I'll always respond. The
Yeah,
thing I always tell students, and it's got nothing to do with me, but just whenever they're reaching out to an alum, a professional, et cetera, is just make sure you're being respectful of the time. Understand what you're trying to accomplish from the conversation. Understand why or what Harlan or Jeffrey or whomever can share that's actually going to influence a decision you're trying to make, and where we're uniquely positioned to sort of share
yeah,
information. Reaching out to Harlan and saying, tell me about a typical day, probably ain't the most best use of time. But reaching out to Harlan and saying, I'm a journalism major and I'm interested in transitioning to other forms of emerging media, I'd love to pick your, like, that's an interesting conversation.
yeah. I love that you're available, you're accessible, and just for anybody listening, the the point of asking you is, people can reach out, and when they reach out, they learn about someone's career path, and having really specific questions about a career path is such a great way to build a meaningful connection with someone. And that's where Hacking College comes in. It's you talk to people who are living the experiences you want to live, you deconstruct their paths, and it helps you to have a compass to know where to go and what to do so that ultimately you will have the most direct path to get to the places you want to go. And then using college, and the Hacking College part of the book is, how can you connect with people on campus, off campus, and how can you get a sense of some of the additional classes, the electives, the things that are going to really color those other areas of your career interests, so you can build that yourself.
Yeah, I mean, look, you hit a big part of that. I know we've gone way off topic from unpaid internships, but you hit a big part of why we created these micro internships. To a large extent, they're intended to be a catalyst for learners to engage with all of these resources. It's a lot easier to reach out to Harlan, the alum from Indiana University, if you're working on a micro internship where Harlan can provide sort of thoughtful perspective. Instead of reaching out and again saying, Harlan, let's talk about Indiana's basketball team, or how did you decide you wanted to be a journalism major? Instead, it's, Harlan, I'm working on a micro internship for an emerging media company. I'd love to pick your brain on lessons learned as I'm doing some research and doing this project. Or to
Yeah.
engage with the faculty member instead of, I fell asleep, Professor Smith, in your marketing class. It's, Professor Smith, I'm doing a market size analysis. I'd love to get your insights on if I'm taking the right approach. One of the other things about Hacking College and just in general is there's this discussion about vocationalizing post-secondary education. We don't want to turn sort of the college or university experience into a vocational program exclusively focused on helping learners get jobs. I mean, that's obviously one of the goals, but one of the other aspects about college that's so important but underappreciated, I think, by both learners and employers, is the development of core skills, sometimes called soft skills, although that's a little bit of a hot button to me. Things like communication, problem solving, ability to craft an argument, learning how to learn. I think there's a huge opportunity for colleges to do better, helping Harlan, the student, as he's taking a philosophy class or as he's taking a computer science class or a finance class, to help him understand how he's developing those core skills and to highlight how important they are, especially as sort of technology is changing. Sorry to go off on a tangent there.
This is not a tangent. This is, I feel like this is completely relevant to this discussion of internships. It's directly related to to the conversation of how does someone set themselves up for success when they're in college, and having these connection points and these areas of interest that align with the things they want. and the people doing the jobs in those places. It is all connected, and the ability, and this is the thing I've been talking a lot about when I'm doing events for parents. I've been doing a lot of parent events, and I go to schools where students are high achievers and they're experts at getting things right. And I emphasize that they need to be experts at getting things wrong, and they need to be experts at
Yeah.
advocating, finding ways to connect, and learning. Because if you're wildly curious, and this idea of being wildly curious, so wildly curious, like even when you started Parker Dewey, like you were so wildly curious to try and solve this problem, you saw this huge gap, that failing and losing, whatever it is you had at stake was not as important as trying to solve this problem, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah. I mean, look, we may have talked about this in the prior discussion. An old friend of mine wrote a book called Little Bets. Guy I used to work with in venture capital, Pete Sims. Great book. Sorry to promote someone else's book on your
promote
podcast.
everybody's book. I promote everyone's book. I've learned the more people I talk to, the more I can promote other people's books. It makes me look
And
smart.
the whole concept behind Little Bets, it's a series of vignettes, but the whole concept is the best innovations have come from people making these tiny little bets, not trying to sort of bet everything on a single thesis, but making these little bets and seeing what works and what doesn't work and learning from it in a way that you can continue to move things forward. It actually aligns very much to sort of Clay Christensen's concept of disruptive innovation. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think, unfortunately, back to the core topic at hand, I think the college to career or launching one's professional career has eliminated those opportunities in a lot of cases for students to make those little bets. I think about our alma mater. When we
Right.
went to Indiana, and I was in business school, freshman, sophomore year, you have very little idea of what you want to do, but you're going to info sessions and you're learning and you're trying to hone in on it. Now, I think with a lot of these programs, these kids start off freshman, sophomore year, picking a path and doing everything exclusively focused on those paths, focused exclusively on getting into investment management or investment banking or whatever it is, without actually having the opportunity to determine, is this the right path for me?
Yeah.
They're not being able to make these mistakes. That's the whole concept behind the micro-internship. Let
Right.
college students explore. Before, quote unquote, betting my big important summer internship between junior and senior year, how cool would it be if I could try out big company, small company? How cool would it be if I could
Right.
try out finance versus marketing versus journalism? How cool would it be if I could try out, I think I like finance, but do I want to do finance as a startup? Or do
Right.
I want to work at an investment bank or something? All we're trying to do is encourage that exploration.
Right.
And what's important is not only is it helping the students, and not only is it sort of the best intentions or fairness or anything else for the companies, it actually helps companies make better decisions. It actually helps them make better hiring. It actually ensures that they're not filtering out huge potential of great candidates for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, you got me on
This
my rant.
this is directly related to unpaid internships, because what you have created is an opportunity for students to be curious, to reach out to contacts who align with the things students are curious about, to potentially, hopefully be able to get these micro internships. And even if they don't get them, they can see the companies and maybe even reach out to some of the people, not to try to do a job, but to just even learn from them. You see who. If someone is listing micro internship in Parker Dewey, then it's like, okay, this is a really interesting company. I want to know more about it. And then you can do a little bit of a deeper dive. But this is about empowering students to have options, because options give you the ability to choose what you want to do with your time. So if you are in a situation and someone says, listen, I can give you this opportunity. Like the whole thing that prompted this, man, is like I got a message. I get a million DMs. It's so hard to respond to them all. And the student's like, I've got this opportunity to work at a lab and it's unpaid and I really want to do it, but I need to make money for college. What do I do? How do I what choices do I have here? Because I really, I want to do this. And I was like, this sucks, man. Like this sucks because this is a kid who needs money. He wants to do something, he has his intellectual curiosity, he wants to find those contacts, and he can't do that. And the thing is, we just accept that things are the way they are. The other path for this student is to ask the people there if they know of anyone who has some type of job opportunity that's paid, 'cause he really needs to make money for college, and or find something similar where you could do some sort of even a part-time job, and you can be in a space like doing a different type of job, but being in a space where you can be around those people and you can develop these skills and relationships. So ultimately, you can get the best of both worlds and maybe shadow someone, do it a little bit differently, but be the one who's in charge. And that's the idea. So uh, I I love this idea of if you don't have an internship, because we know, and you're probably, I had the data pulled somewhere, but we know that there are more students who want internships than internships available, right? There's an internship shortage, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's a gigantic internship shortage. So when there's a shortage, the the people who need those internships are often less empowered and more easily exploited because they need something that they can't always get. So
Yeah, I would also I agree with you. I would also dig into some of that internship data, um, because there's a little bit of question around it. I mean, look, we can always use more internships, we can always use more micro internships, more jobs, more apprenticeships, everything. But one of the things I would suggest students do, and it goes to something you said, which is take ownership for their pathway. While
right,
they may not have gotten the internship through whatever job board their college uses, while they may not have gotten the internship with the big fancy name that they were expecting or they wanted, go to a company, go to a local business, go to an organization and make the pitch why they should bring you in as a summer intern. Look at their entry level job descriptions. They're all publicly out there, and talk about how you want to do an internship for them this summer. Here's what you want to do. Here's the responsibilities. Um, we've heard a lot of those situations where students were essentially able to create their own internships, and these were not
right,
unpaid experiences. These are paid. And again, by the way, this has nothing to do with Parker Dewey. All I'm talking about is, as a student, take
right.
ownership of it. The other thing is, don't limit yourself. Again, just because you're a marketing major doesn't mean you have to work at Procter and Gamble or Kraft or one of the big sort of marketing organizations or marketing agencies that you've heard of. Local manufacturing company hires marketers. Go reach out to them. Let them know that you're interested in a role. You might find you love it. You might find it's a great fit. You might find there's more learning opportunity. Again, just take ownership of that path
Yeah.
and be open to making mistakes.
I think one of the great hacks is to find a small business, and you find a small business with someone who worked at one of those companies. And you find one that's maybe it's got 10 people, maybe it's got 15 people, whatever it is. And then you go in there and you can have an informational conversation, but also the idea of not even calling it an internship, but calling it a job, like a summer job. And you can call it either way, but internship I think almost means there's some type of like more supervision. um, and this idea of whether it's a part-time job or an internship, and this is like again another huge hack is I was talking to a student at U of I. I was on campus. And I met this student Brandon who was graduating. Didn't know what he wanted to do. Didn't know what he wanted to do. Didn't know what he wanted to do. Right. Sometimes I try to speak properly, and I'm like, wait, is that right? Uh, I am not ChatGPT. So so Brandon was great. He did a restoration project over the summer of his junior year. It was a job. He looked up and like prairie restoration and whatever different types of restoration. He had a great experience. The supervisor wrote him a letter of recommendation, and then he was looking for a job this year. Oh, he went on a 2-week trip to Spain, talked to the professor. Professor offered him some really good insight into, why don't you do this if you enjoyed it and you have a lot of interest? And it was that career exploration from hacking college, someone who took an interest. And he was like, okay, that's great. He had confidence. Then he applied for like 50 jobs or whatever. And it was a job in Boston that offered him, in Massachusetts, it offered him a job, and he's graduating with a full-time job, working restoration. The person who hired him last year wrote this letter of recommendation from a job. So it wasn't called an internship. It was called a job.
Yeah.
Because students who are like, I don't get an internship, I'm like, screw that. You know what it's like? Do a job that's related in some capacity, or even not, but just do
Even
something.
not. Well, that's one of the big things. I mean, let's students again take ownership of the role, but also recognize that there's core skills that you're developing. You're working at the Gap doing retail, which was, I guess, when you and I were growing up, sort of the common retail. Is the Gap even still around?
Yeah, it is.
I haven't been to a mall forever.
I
But
worked at Baker Square for like 8 years, 7 years.
yeah, take a job at Baker Square
They're out of
and
business.
use it to hone skills like communication and problem solving. Again, don't be silly about the way you put it on your resume. Everyone knows what it is, but don't look down upon those skills. Don't look down upon the skills of working retail. And again, supporting, like, these things are core. These things are core, and these are the reasons that, again, new hires don't work out at companies. It's not because they can't program sort of Python or do a DCF in Excel or whatever. It's because they can't communicate effectively. They can't problem solve. They're not coachable.
Right.
And these skills are ones that students need to continue to hone and demonstrate when they're applying for those full-time roles or those summer internships or those part-time jobs.
Even, being a camp counselor, I'm a camp counselor. I was in charge of, 5-year-olds, and I worked there for 3 years. I'm now, a supervisor or whatever it is. Like that tells me you can communicate. You show up. You are someone who is responsible. You are someone who can handle 5-year-olds, which at a lot of businesses, it comes in very handy when people with their egos take over. So there's these amazing skills. So, okay, I know it's like I've teased these comments, and I'm only going to keep here for like 10 minutes. I'm going to share a couple of these because the theme emerges, it's really being empowered and in charge. So there are 2 areas of your life, of your career, which is we need to do a deeper dive because I'm going to put together a list. Like I'm so focused on this because it might feel easy, and it is easy. And my job is to make sure that I serve it up in the easiest way. And what you do as well. All right. So let me do this. I run a nonprofit and cannot afford to pay my interns. However, I provide weekly meetings, give tangible projects they can promote to demonstrate their skills, offer mentorship, check in on their goals, and review of their LinkedIn page. Their time is valuable, and it's important for me to show that. And then I responded, a nonprofit with a lean staff and uncertain funding is a different situation. Maybe if an intern can generate a source of additional funding, there could be some sort of compensation. So I want to get your take, Jeffrey, on the nonprofit that doesn't have the resources to provide any type of income for an intern.
Yeah, this one I struggle with. I truly do. At the end of the day, my view is whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit, you should still be paying your interns. And if the interns are doing valuable work, if they're doing things to, again, contribute to the success of that organization, they should be paid for their work. I mean, forget the legal aspects, which again suggests they should be paid anyway. it goes back to, again, there's a lot of individuals who come from sort of less affluent backgrounds who want to work in nonprofits. And if they're not able to do so through an internship because they can't afford to do free work, again, it's yet another example of an intern, of limiting an opportunity and potentially hurting that nonprofit. I loved your suggestion about, are there projects that an intern can work on that actually generate funding? We've seen that on Parker Dewey, where a common project is researching the IRS 990 forms of foundations or other nonprofits to help do lead gen. One of the other things I would say is, for a nonprofit, go talk to some of your funding sources. My guess is if you went to them and said, look, we need to bring in Harlan as the intern for this summer. Here's what he's going to be doing. Here's the value he's going to add. We can't really afford it, but is there an opportunity to go generate $5,000 or $10,000 of budget from some of the funding sources? Again, I'd be shocked if some of the funders weren't willing or able to write that check. Again, assuming you have a concrete plan.
Well, and even having the intern be the one, if someone's like, we're overworked, we are overwhelmed, we could barely take care of what we need to do, then maybe bring someone in. I like the idea also of making it where maybe it's 2 days a week, or, you spread it out. So if it's a nonprofit and you have someone coming in 2 days a week, then that gives them 5 days to be able to work.
But they should still be paid for their time.
I mean, right. Absolutely. I think that is the reality, is that people are not going to always be paid for their time. And I would love for that to change. And hopefully, I think the only way it would change would be if there's some sort of legislation.
Well, there is.
Would mandate that. For internships?
There is. Legislation says interns need to be paid. It's again, there's a couple of loopholes, but they are very, very, very specific. Again, not suggesting people don't try to take advantage, and there's not sort of definitional workarounds, but there is legislation saying interns need to be paid for their work.
Well, then, okay, so there doesn't just need to be legislation, it needs to be legislation that's enforced. Right. Maybe that's the answer. Okay. I want to get to a couple more. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. And someone could look into that, because I wasn't aware of that. And I think that's really helpful to know. Teachers are trained to literally work for free during student teaching. The entire public education system is built and depends on unpaid labor. And then I had a response to this just kind of as an overall response. Teaching training under the supervision of a mentor as part of a structured academic program would be a different category. The problem in this situation is the supervisor is rarely compensated for the additional work and services they provide. So this idea of student teaching, and you see this often in healthcare, there is a part of the requirement to get that degree. The degree requirement is you have to, intern or do something. You have to have experience, on hand experience. So, how would you view that?
That's a little bit outside my area of expertise. I can see the argument both ways. But when you start having regulatory requirements to have student teaching, it's a different game. It's a different game. Sorry, I don't have a great answer.
I think that doesn't belong in this conversation. I don't look at when I'm looking at internships, I'm looking at a student who is doing something above and beyond the curriculum, or it's a situation where it's not required, but it's something that they want to do to further their
that's you said it much better than I could.
No, I thought, well, I think the fact that you even start and you're like, I think the fact that you're even willing to say, that's something that's not really in my area of expertise. Like, just as anyone who's listening, it's like, I mean, you're one of the most brilliant people I know in the space, and you
know a lot of people in the space that. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, you're very knowledgeable, and you've done something, building this network of job. You have your network of what's the language you use to match the employer and the job seeker? Like you call your what's
platform?
No, the person. It's like your student is your job seeker
Oh,
or
your
your
micro intern career launcher?
career launcher, right? You got your
Career
career
launch.
launcher, and then the employer is what the
We use the term employer, although they're not formally employers
okay,
of the micro interns, but that's
right? Because
correct.
a
Mhm.
work for hire kind of
Yeah.
situation, right? The
It-
point is, you've built this incredible network
yeah.
of students, and you have the employers, and then you have in between, you have the schools, you
Yeah.
have
By the way, I got to hit on something. You just reminded me. I mean, a number of schools are offering programs where they're providing funding for students to
yeah,
work on otherwise unpaid summer internships. Um, Again, it's not a great situation. I'm a believer that the organization should be paying, but
right,
it's nice to see more schools and other organizations recognizing that some
yeah,
employers have leveraged these workarounds, whether it's for sort of nefarious purposes or like that nonprofit that just hasn't been able to make it work. So again, for students who really want to
yeah,
take an unpaid internship, do some online research. Your school may have something that provides funding for it, or
yeah.
there's some other organizations that do.
There have been a bunch of students who have mentioned they've been able to get uh, they were able to get some sort of scholarship or some money
Yeah.
from the career center. Then there's a bunch that said they couldn't. So I'm gonna wrap this up in the next 3 minutes, Jeffrey. But I just wanted to go through a few more of these. I feel this is so hard. My daughter, several friends have summer internships while she's working 3 jobs to help pay for school. Sure, an internship in an area of study would be lovely, but show her the money. It's a privilege to be able to do unpaid labor while it's simultaneously exploiting. I'm a special ed teacher, so I did 2 unpaid internships and feel that there has to be another way. Just reinforcing this. I remember having unpaid internships for college
College
credit.
credit. That's
What's
that's yeah.
what's that?
No, the college credit thing is always interesting to me, but
Yeah,
we're
I think it's
not getting paid and you have to pay to get your credits.
dude. I had my internship with the Tonight Show with Jay Leno when I was a senior in college. I They did not pay me. Yeah, it was 3 days a week. I worked the other 4 days a week to be able to
Cool.
afford to take care of myself. This is NBC, and the privilege of working there was enough of a payment. And you see this all the time, and like they could have paid it. I mean, how would you not like as an adult now? I'm like that is so wrong. I mean,
Yeah, I think those are the kinds of experiences that legislation has finally stepped in to prevent. Um, but even if without legislation, again, it's wrong. By the way, the other amusing one to me is when politicians don't pay their interns.
oh, right, the government. There's someone listed that they had a government job, and then there was another one where someone's working for justice. They're working in DC.
Oh, I'm thinking about even individual politicians, certain governors who are big in we need to increase minimum wage, we need to make sure everyone is
Yeah,
paid, these corporations are taking money, don't pay their interns. And it is
yeah,
absolutely shocking to me. I mean,
yeah.
it shouldn't be,
It
but
right. It is something that is so common, and what I want everyone to get out of this, and anyone can scroll. You can scroll this post, and you can see. It's funny. This OTPT SLP therapist, all unpaid internships for six
this
months.
this I would put in the same category as teachers.
Yeah,
It's just outside of my expertise. It's
right. It's
tied to
training.
very specialized training. One can make the same argument with certain doctors, like being again dramatically underpaid during their program. Like
Yeah,
again, there's always those things. That's a small percentage, I think, of the types of internships or
yeah,
experiences that we're talking about. We're talking about, again, the kid who wants to go work in media who can't afford to work for free for Jay Leno because he's too busy
right,
buying his cars. Um,
right. It's it's there's a lot of those examples, and I think even when someone is going through and filtering through these, this is enough information to really provide an answer. The answer is okay, if there isn't a internship, if you can't get an internship, get a job. Okay, learn about the people who are there. I encourage students, do you want to be the person who works there? You want to be the person who manages? You want to be the person who owns it? So if you categorize that and kind of tell your story, you can start to align with people and learn. Yes. What do you want to say?
No. And I'm reading the one you have up on the screen right now.
Oh, you can read that. Yeah.
I think I have my glasses off. I think this is an interesting comment to me.
Yeah.
Because if you are bringing in a summer intern where the primary purpose is just to get some part-time leverage, I think you're thinking about the internship wrong as an employer. I think you're thinking about it wrong as an employer. Internships are a really, really good way to engage and assess people who you might want to bring in as a full-time hire down the road. Again, it's like getting engaged, if you will, before the marriage of a full-time role. Right. And I think people need to recognize that, again, the same way they're going to spend money on a career fair, the same way they're going to spend money flying people out for interviews and everything else, a summer internship is in a lot of ways that, call it that super long interview process. And it's mutual. It's not just the company assessing the student, it's also the student assessing the company, making sure it's that mutual fit. And I think that's the attitude that needs to go in. It is a marketing, recruiting resource or tool for an organization. And if you're not, as an organization, putting your best foot forward, again, if you're telling Harlan, the summer intern, that you don't think his time is valuable or worth anything by not paying him, what kind of signal is that sending? If you want to hire him in the future, what kind of relationship is that building?
Right. But just for anyone who wants to know what Jeffrey was looking at, if you're listening to the podcast, the conversation or the post was, this person said, unpopular opinion based on other comments, I was an unpaid intern and then a paid employee after graduation in a nonprofit. I managed college interns who were unpaid. It took a lot of time and instruction for their work to be usable. For most of them, we would not have paid for the quality of work we were getting when they began, but they left with skills and recommendations that got many of them jobs by the end. The director just barely made a living wage. And your point was that the employer needs to be looking at this in a different way, not just giving students skills that they can take somewhere else, but really being able to get to know students and building meaningful relationships that can ultimately lead to a job. And for students who are thinking, I would love to find jobs, I would love to be able to explore this, I encourage every one of you to check out Parker Dewey, to create a profile, to scroll the different job opportunities, to look at the different employers, to just search. It is an amazing resource. Jeffrey, what's the best way for people to become engaged?
Just visit Parker Dewey and see what opportunities are up there. And by the way, for all the parents here or other sort of supporters, you should be offering micro-internships. Any one of your organizations can benefit by offering them to these smart, hardworking college students, both as a way to recruit them more effectively and see their skills, but also as a resource to get some help on small projects.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful to have this conversation. I wish we can go longer. We'll do it again because there's so much overlap, man. You're just doing such great work, and we're just in people's corner, and I just love it. And you're always in mind. So thank you for being here. And Parker Dewey will include all the information, anything else in the show notes that you want to include. We'll do that, and we'll do it again, man, because there's never enough time.
I know.
All right. Thanks, Jeffrey.
I'm going to go buy that record now.
Good. I'll get you some.
Bye.
Thanks.